Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Nurse's Thread. Today on the channel, I'll be showing you how to make a waistcoat. If it's something you're interested in, give this video a thumbs up and let's get right into this. So we'll start off by drafting this on our pattern paper. I just went ahead to rule a line to serve as my starting point, okay? And I'll go on to mark my paper to serve as my midpoint. That's because my paper isn't folded. Then I'll go right in and mark half of my shoulder measurement, which is 7.5 inches. And then I will mark my neck weight of 3 inches. Then at the point where I marked my shoulder, I'll go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slant and I'll connect it to meet the neck width. Okay, so the next thing I want to mark is the neck depth. Now note that this is the pattern for the back. What we're drafting is the back piece. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and mark my neck depth of 1.5 inches for the back, and I'll use my curve rule to just make a simple curve at that point. All right, so the next thing we want to get is our armhole depth. So usually to get that, you divide your round bust by 6 and then add 1.5 inches to whatever you get. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to divide my round bust by 6 inches and then I'm going to add 1.5. So whatever I get from that, I'll just mark it down. All right, then I'm going to roll a horizontal line at that point. So I'll also mark my shoulder measurement on this line which I've drawn. Again, now this is so that I can get accurate measurement when I connect the points I have together. Okay, so you can see why that was necessary. All right, then on that point also I just marked quarter of my round bust measurement at that point, and I went in on my armhole depth line to get the midpoint of that line, and I'll make a mark at that point. And I'm going to use my rule to connect the points I've made together like so. Okay, so there we have it. So we'll go in and mark our other vertical measurements. So we have the first line, which is the chest line, is going to serve as our bust point also. So we'll just go in and mark shoulder to waist point. All right, and then the full length of where this is going to end. So I just mark those points down and I'm going in with my rule to just make horizontal lines at those points. Right, so we have that down. So remember I said this other end of my paper is my center front. So from that end, I went in to mark my nipple to nipple measurement, which is the bust span. So whatever you get, divided by 2 and then mark it down. So I marked it from the chest line down to the full length of this, and I'm connecting it together in a straight line. Okay, then at the midpoint, that's the waist area, I'll go in and out on both ends by 1/2 inch, and then I will mark it down. Okay, after doing that, I'll go ahead and connect this to the top of my dart line, which is at the chest area on both ends like so. Okay, and then I'll connect this to meet the dart leg also. Okay, so for this you can use a straight dart if you want to, but I'll be using the princess dart for this. So what I'll do is to connect this line to meet the midpoint of my armhole line. Okay, just like so. So you notice that that end right there is sharp, and we're not supposed to have any sharp edges. So I just go in with my marker to touch up the lines, and then I'm going in to take my measurements, impute my body measurement. So ensure that while you're taking that off the waist, you also add the intake, the dart allowance intake you took. So whatever intake you're using for your darts, ensure you add back that allowance by the sides. So do the same thing to the end. So after doing that, I just went ahead to connect the points I've made together. All right, so this is what we have for the back. You can see how this is. It's quite easy. And I just went in with my scissors to cut this out. So you want to watch carefully how I'm cutting this out. So while doing yours, there'll be no mistakes. All right. Okay, so this is the back piece. This is what we have for the back. Now remember, for our back, while cutting this out on your fabric, you need to cut this piece on fold. Okay, you cut that on fold, and for the side piece you need to have two of it, so you cut times two of it. Okay, so we're going in to work on our front piece. So I just drew the same line like I did at the back, and I'm going in to mark I'll just rule a line at this point. So you can see I'm not ruling this line from the starting of my paper. I just give at least 2 inches. So you can use 2 inches for that. Okay. I just use 2 inches for that. Okay. Then from that line, that's after my line, that is where I will be taking my measurement. So after that line, I'm going in to mark half of my shoulder measurement. So whatever your shoulder measurement is, divide that by 2, mark it down. Also make the same use of the neck width you used at the back. I went down by 1 inch for my shoulder slant, and I'm connecting it back to meet my neck width. Okay, so I'm just repeating the measurements I have at the front, at the back. Okay, I'm repeating the same thing I have at the back, at the front also. So I just marked my armhole depth, and I made a horizontal line there. Then I'll go in and mark my shoulder measurement also at that point, so that I can get a straight line while connecting this together. Okay, then I'll just extend my line outwards a little bit. All right, so I'm going in to impute my other vertical measurement, which is the shoulder to waist and the full length. So whatever full length you're using for the back, it needs to reflect on the front also. So I just made horizontal lines at those points which I just marked. Okay, so this is what we have. Now for the arm area, I will also get the midpoint of my armhole depth, make a mark there, and at that point I'll go in by half of an inch. All right, then I'll get quarter of my round bust. Now I'm going to advise you that for your back also, you should go in by half of an inch also, like you're doing in front, so that it's going to have like a form, if it to be form fitted. All right, I actually corrected this later on while I was working on this project, so I advise you do the same to yours. Okay, so I just went in and marked my bust span, that's the nipple to nipple measurement from the chest line to the full length of this, and I connected the points I made together in a straight line. Now at the waist area, I will also take half inch on both sides like I did for the back piece. So this is just us marking at the dart. Like I said earlier, you can also use a straight dart for this. Okay, if that is what you want, you can use a straight dart for yours also. So I just connected my dart to the top of the line, and I connected that also to the ends of my line. All right, so this is what we have. So connect this back to meet the midpoint of our armhole. So now you notice I'm using a curved rule at this area. So I know I would advise you also use a curve rule even for that of the back, so that it is not so pointy like it was for that of the back. Okay, then if you have your lines being pointy, just go in with your marker and touch up those lines. Okay, so after which I'm just going in to mark the body measurement. So one thing I didn't state at the back was that I used 1 inch for my inseam allowance. Now this is an English wear, you don't need too much going on inside. So 1 inch is okay for you to use for your inseam allowance. You can also use half of an inch. That is if you can manage your stitching properly. So I just use 1 inch to be on the safe side, and I connected it together, not forgetting to add my dart intake allowance. Okay, so now from the front of this, okay, I'll be going out by 1 inch for my button allowance. Now this is the difference with the back and the front. We have the buttons in front, so I just extended from where I have the chest line. I went out by 1 inch, from the waist 1 inch to the full length 1 inch, and I'm going to connect those points I've made together in a straight line like so. Okay, so I'm just connecting the lines to meet with what I had already. So that's the essence of the space we left earlier. Okay, then the next thing I'm going to do is that from the top of the line, which I came out by 1 inch, I will go down by 1 inch also. All right, then I'm going to just connect a slant line from my neck width to meet that point. Now this is the front neckline of our dress, okay, of our jacket. Now from the down part, I'll be going down by 2.5 inches for the extension of the front, and I'll just draw a horizontal line at that point. Okay, okay, after doing that, I'll take what I have from my the first measurement I have, not from my button allowance, to my dart leg. I'll take that and get my midpoint. Okay, after making that mark there, I just extended it down to meet the 2.5 inches point I came down. Then I'll go in from my button allowance by half of an inch. I'll make a mark there. Now I'm going to connect a slanted line from that point to meet the edge of this line like so. Okay, and then connect it to meet the end of the bodice. All right, so you can see what we have at the back, and I just extended my dart lines to meet that point. So you can see the shape of the back of the front. Sorry, this is what the front shape looks like. It's not going to be like the back, which is just all straight moving. Okay, so this has like a little bit of character in front. This is how the waistcoat is in front. Okay, so this is how to get that extension. So just watch how I'm cutting this out. I'm just following the lines, my original lines, to cut this out, not forgetting to get, so you can see the shape we have already. You can see how nice this is looking already. Okay, so this is what we have for the front. So while cutting the front, we're going to be cutting two of this and then two of this also. Okay, so I've gone ahead to do that. This is what I have. So this is my front piece. So I added half of an inch at the sides of my front. I also added around the shoulder area. Then for the back piece, you can see how this is. I added at the dart area, I added at the neckline, and also at the shoulder area. And then for the sides of the back, I just added at the dart area. So just add half of an inch to that. So while cutting this out on my fabric, I went ahead to cut this out on my lining piece. Now this is a suit lining. Okay, it's not cotton and it's not punchy linen. Okay, it's more solid than punchy, but it is not cotton. So this is what we're going to do now. So starting with our front piece, what I'll do is to align the piece meant for them together, and I'm going to pin them down. All right, so I'll just pin them together so it will be easier for me to stitch this by the time I move over to the sewing machine. So the fabric I'm using for this project is a crepe fabric. You can use an ankara. It depends on what you're working towards. So I'm making a 3-piece of this outfit. That is what I'm doing. So I'm using a crepe which matches the trouser and then the blazer of it. So this is what I have after I pinned it down. Okay, so I want to go ahead and stitch that down by half of an inch. I'll repeat the same process for the other part of it. Now for the back piece, remember we have the centered back. It's not open, so it's just one piece of the center back and then two piece of our side back. I'll repeat the same process like I did in front. Place the matching ends of it together, like the dart area of it together. I will pin them down properly. So the essence of pinning down is so that while you're working on this, while you're stitching this down, your fabric isn't moving, it's not disturbing you. It makes work easier. Okay, I prefer doing that. I don't know about you, but I prefer using pins while I'm stitching things like this. Okay, I prefer using pins a lot. It makes my work easier, it makes it smoother. So after doing that, I will also pin the other piece like so. All right, so because I'm using a crepe fabric for this project, I actually made marks on this so that I can indicate from the front and the back. There's always that confusion with crepes. Okay, there's some fabrics where you don't know the difference between the front and the back. So there's always that confusion. I prefer just making marks on the back so that I am not confused while I'm working on this. Okay, so I just went in, pin them down, ensure they are pinned properly from the ends to the top part of it. So while stitching, ensure you start your stitching from the ends, like from the bottom part of it. Okay, so this is what we have for the back. As you can see, now the back is meant to have like a rope which will serve as an adjustment for the back. So I've gone ahead to fold that. After folding this, I had about 0.75 inch. So I advise you to fold yours to get up to 1 inch so that it gives it more width. Okay, then for the length, I really didn't take the measurement of what I did. I think it's around 6 to 7 inches. So you just need to have it around 5 to 6 inches for it to be moderate. Okay, so what I did was that I measured from my shoulder to my waist point, and then I made a line at that point. Okay, now this is because I'll be putting these ropes at those ends so that while I'm stitching this back piece, I'll stitch it together. Now, like I said, this is going to serve as an adjustment. Now I have one end of this open now and then the other end closed. So the open end is where I'm putting in between the fabric pieces and I'm pinning this down. So you want to ensure you're placing this at the right part, and I'll repeat the same thing for the other one. Place it in between my fabric piece and pin it down, after which I will go ahead and stitch them together with the piece. Okay, so that it stays there. So this is what I have. I'll just go ahead and stitch it down. So I've finished doing that. Now this is my front piece after joining the piece together. This is both sides of the front and this is that of the back after I did that. So whatever you do to your main fabric, repeat the same thing to the lining piece. Right, so this is what it looks like. Okay, so while we want to adjust this later, we can adjust this to get a firmer fitting at the waist area. So the next thing we're going to do is to place this right side of fabric to right side, so we can go ahead and join the shoulders together by half of an inch on both ends. So I finished doing that. This is what it looks like. Okay, so this is what we have. So remember I said repeat the same thing you have for your lining, your fabric, your main fabric on the lining piece. So I repeated the same thing. So what I'm doing now is aligning my fabric piece to the lining around the neckline area. So you're going to place this right side of fabric to right side of fabric. That's right side of your main fabric to the right side of your lining piece, and you're going to pin them together. So you need to work with your pins like I said. So this is the essence of having your pins available to you. So I just went in with my pins and then placed it down. So you can see the areas where I'm pinning down. Okay, I'm not pinning all through this. After pinning the neckline area, I went ahead to also pin down the armhole area. So I'm just pinning down. No, this is a waistcoat, so it's meant to be worn inside, so it doesn't need to have a sleeve. All right, it has something that will serve as the sleeve, like the blazers on top of it will have a sleeve which will cover up for this. So we're going to pin down our armhole area also on the right and also on the left. After pinning down, you go ahead and stitch it down. So you want to take your time, place them well, ensure that they are well placed, that they are matching properly, pin them properly. Okay, so pin the neckline area, pin the armhole area. So these are the areas we're working on firstly. So after pinning down, we just go ahead and stitch. So you're going to stitch it down by half of an inch, right? Remember, we added allowances to this earlier, so that is the essence of adding those allowances. So we're going to stitch it down by half of an inch and then stitch the armhole area also. So I finished doing that. This is what it looks like. So I also went ahead to make marks on this, so that when I'm ironing this down, it's going to give me it's going to be easier to iron down. So I'm just going to flip this over to the right side so you can see. Okay, so what we're trying to do is to do an inseam finishing so that this comes out looking nice, comes out looking good. So this is what it looks like. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to align the sides together. Now from the arm area, I just align this to lining to lining and then fabric to fabric, and I'm going ahead again with my paints to just put them together in place, keep it together in place. So I just aligned. So this is like the sides allowance. Instead of stitching this outside, we're going to stitch them inside so that we have nothing like threads showing outside. So you repeat the same process for the right side or the left side, whatever area you started with firstly. So whatever you do to the right, repeat that to the left also. Okay, place the lining to lining, main fabric to main fabric, after which just go ahead and stitch it down. So this is what I have after doing that. So I just gave this a little bit of I just pressed this down a little bit, as you can see. So you can see how nice this is looking already. It is looking nice, okay, already. So if you want to put pockets for yours, you can do that, but I didn't want any pockets on this. Okay, I just wanted it to be this way. Okay, so the next we'll do is to align the edge. This is the parts we're going to stitch next. So this is the open parts we have left. So what we'll do is to align this also, stitch it down. Okay, so while stitching, you have to leave allowance at the midpoint, which you use to flip it over to the right side. So this is what it looks like after I did that, you can see, and I also ironed it down. So this is the opening I have left, which I use to flip this over to the right side. So what I'll do to that end is to use my hemming gum and just place it in between that and iron it down. You can also use can also stitch on top of it if you want to. So I just use the hemming gum because I don't want threads showing outside of this. All right, so this is the final look of waistcoat. This is what it looks like. So what is left is to go on to put buttonholes and buttons on this. All right, so you can see the front. Now for the back, we're also going to put holes and then buttons on that adjustment area of the back also, okay, so that we can use that later. So this is the final look of the dress. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this, and if you're yet to subscribe to the channel, please subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.